Hey everybody, welcome back to Pepe's YouTube channel. I'm so glad you've stopped by. I wanted to give you guys an update on the 2 lychee trees that I pruned about a week ago and show you the explosive outburst of growth that the trees have. One more thing. I've got this in my hand, and this is called a girdling tool. This is really something you're not going to want to miss. So stick with us, and we'll be right back. Alright, so if you've watched the previous video, and I'll post a link above my head here, the one about how to prune these lychee trees, I mentioned in that video that I was keeping this low branch for a reason. Does anybody remember why I was keeping this low branch for a reason? Go ahead and put a comment below. Now this lychee tree here has gotten all of this growth, this beautiful new growth, in just about 9 or 10 days, roughly. And you can see how nicely it's grown. And literally, if you look, I hope you can see this, if you look here, you still have more growth right below the places where the tree was pruned. So let's take a look at this branch. This little branch was not pruned at all, except for, yes, actually it was. I pruned it right here. I took a little branch off right here. And right below that branch where it was removed, we have some new growth. Over here, we did that little bit of tip pruning, and we have a whole bunch of new growth. If you look at this tree, there's one more thing that I did, and that is I used this tool, which is a girdling tool. And I'm going to explain why we do this in a minute. And it's important, because if you want to keep your fruit trees compact, small, and yet you also want them to be productive, this comes in really handy. Alright, so let me briefly explain what girdling a tree is, okay? When you're girdling a tree, you're going to basically use either one of these tools or you're going to use a knife. Obviously that's been cleaned and disinfected, just like I've always mentioned in all my videos. Whenever you're pruning or cutting into the tree, you always want your tools to be disinfected with either a bleach or alcohol, okay? Now, this tree has these marks that are called girdling for a reason. And what you see here is a tool, and I'm not going to do this again because this tree's already been girdled in about 4 different places, and I actually might have overdone it a little bit. But as we discuss this, I'll explain. So what I did is, and I'm going to turn this the opposite way just to kind of demonstrate, because if I do it this way, I'm going to end up cutting the tree again. So this is extremely sharp. You have to be real careful. And it's got a notched end here so that as you take this and place this on the tree and you pull downwards, and you put a little bit of force on it, you're actually cutting in to the cambium layer below by removing the exterior bark and getting down there and separating that. The reason this is done is for 2 major reasons. One major reason is so that the tree gets stressed out a little bit, because the flow of sugars is interrupted as it's traveling down the tree branch and doesn't get down to the roots. So that flow of sugar, because it's been interrupted, allows the leaves to receive a lot more carbohydrate, a lot more fuel, so to speak. And then this will help the tree on that branch that's been girdled produce more fruit. So this is something that's done on many fruit trees. It's done on lychee trees in Florida. Not by everybody, but some people do it. And you don't do it every year, okay, consistently on the same branches. And you don't go back and put these girdles on the same places where you had previously girdled the tree. The second reason this is used in order to help trees grow a little slower. Because by doing these girdles on the tree, you're beginning to kind of force it to heal those areas and reduces the growth of the tree. So that's the second reason that it's done. Now, a third reason that it's done is to actually kill a tree. So you would never do that to the trunk or the main part of the tree, the main trunk of the tree. You don't do that, because if you do that to the trunk of the tree and you go all the way around in a big circle all around at the circumference of the tree and you cut in that deeply, you're going to really starve the tree of the nutrients coming back down to the roots, and that tree is going to suffer tremendously. So by doing multiple girdles around the trunk of a tree, you can kill a tree. All right, so here on my second tree, you can still see all of the beautiful growth that's going on. And while I'm discussing this new growth on the tree, let me point out this that's very important if you're growing lychee trees. All of this new growth on these trees, as you probably know if you grow lychees now, are extremely fragile. They're very easily damaged by the wind. So if you just went out and bought a lychee tree recently and you're going to plant it, it's really a good idea to shelter the tree by putting some poles around in the ground, say 3 or 4 poles around the tree, and actually putting some kind of shade material all along the sides to kind of protect it from the wind. That's not a bad idea. And if you do that to your tree, it's going to definitely grow so much better and be so much healthier. You'll be very surprised how fast that tree will develop if you protect it from the wind. All right, so you want to grow a really nice lychee tree, and you want to get fruit. So I've given you some tips how the girdling tool can help. I've given you some tips on how to get a nice healthy growing tree by making sure you protect it from the wind. But let me also emphasize the importance of keeping the tree compact, small. You don't want your tree to get too big, because a large tree is much more difficult to maintain and take care of. And as I mentioned in the previous video about trimming and pruning the tree, you definitely don't want to have all this excessive wood loaded with nitrogen that kind of doesn't let the tree be as productive. Another tip about productivity of your fruit trees is be careful when and what you're spraying, okay? If you're out there spraying pesticide like a maniac, and you're doing it also when your trees are going into flowering, there's a good chance you're going to reduce the ability of that tree to be pollinated by insects. So keep that in mind. Another thing that you would definitely want to do is your lychee tree needs lots of sun. Full sun is very important for maximum fruit productivity, okay? Also, we talked about in the previous video, keeping the interior of the tree as open as possible, keeping the branches growing a little bit outwards as opposed to growing very much inwards, so you have lots of air coming into your tree and lots of sunlight. So those are some important tips on how to get your lychee tree to grow well and to stay compact, and also to produce some fruit for you guys. Now, the final thing that's really important is you got to have a little bit of chill every year. Okay, a chill hour is what's required, and that's temperatures below 44 degrees. I believe it's 45 degrees. Anything lower than 45 degrees for a number of hours are the requirements that trees usually have in order to produce the fruit. And that's because it helps to stress out the tree. Okay, now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a couple of trees, not lychee trees necessarily, there's just one lychee tree over there. I'm going to show you a couple of trees that have air layered to demonstrate from previous videos that I did on air layering, which is a way of producing more trees from your trees. I'm going to show you a couple of trees I've air layered and give you an update on that. Okay, so on this little table here, I have 2 trees that were air layered, okay? And if you want to know what air layering is, and you should know what this is if you're serious about propagating trees, or if you're serious about having a food forest and you don't want to spend a whole bunch of money, well, you know what? Once you have your trees established, you don't ever have to buy another tree. You really don't. You can make more trees from those top quality trees that you already have, okay? So here's the results of, and I'm going to show you probably 4 different plants that I've air layered. Actually all of these plants that I'm going to show you, there's videos that correspond to each plant and how I air layered it, or maybe how I took the air layer from the tree and then potted it up. So to show you that these were all successful on these trees, I'm going to demonstrate these plants now. Okay, the first one I'm going to show you refers to the video on air layering fruit trees in general, but in that one we did a lychee tree, and this is the branch from the lychee tree that is already rooted very well in the 1-gallon pot. Tree's doing tremendous, okay? All this is beautiful new growth from about 2 weeks ago, and it's already beginning to harden off. Actually, it's hardened off really nice. So there you go. Here's a little bit real nice growth there. So this is a way of making a tree. Now, this tree can actually be sold if you were in a business of selling trees, like I used to be. You can take this tree here and you could easily wholesale that tree for anywhere from 15, on average about 15 bucks for a tree like this wholesale, maybe 10 if you buy a lot of plants, okay? Now, this other, and by the way, that tree I just put on the ground is ready to go into a 3-gallon container, which is going to bring me to my Kohala longon. This is the one that I did a video also on air layering, and this tree is leafed out, doing great. Now, I'll admit one thing, okay? This tree I was a little nervous about, because normally when I do these air layers, and you can watch that video on air layering, you're going to see that I remove a lot of the leaves like I did to the lychee that I just showed you a minute ago. This one, I was so busy that day and I had some place to go that I completely forgot even to mention that you're supposed to remove all the leaves. And you know, it's the best way to do it, but I didn't do it. And the tree bounced back, dropped all its leaves like 2 days later. Everything turned yellow, dropped off. And I was like, whoa, is this one gonna make it? Well, guess what? It made it fine. The reason is that it was a really good location where I put it. I didn't stress the tree out with like direct sunlight. I kept the soil nice and moist, and the tree just bounced back. This tree originally was started on the tree. So it was originally started on the branch of the tree on, I believe it was, let's see, March 21st. And it's what is it now? Now it's July 23rd. And I'm not gonna yank on it because it's not completely rooted yet, but this tree is actually rooted fairly well. Probably another 2 months in here, or 3 months, and I can probably go to a 7-gallon container. Now here I have a coffee tree that I air layered. I'm really proud of these coffee trees that I've air layered. This is one of about 3 different plants. And the reason I say I'm proud of this is because, you know, I've air layered a lot of plants in all the years that I've been growing and producing and selling and managing nurseries and doing all that kind of stuff. And I was always told by people, no, you can only grow them from seed. Don't even bother trying to graft them. Don't even bother trying to air layer them. You know, maybe grafting, but air layer, that's never going to work. I hate it when someone says I can't do something because it just makes me nuts. Well, you know what? All I did was the same thing that anybody would do if they were air layering a tree. Nothing different, okay? I did the same process, and you can watch the videos that I have on air layering. And I just did that, and I've gotten beautiful trees from it, okay? This one's, let's see, this one was back in January of 2018, the beginning of January. It's already gone from a 3-gallon container all the way up to 7, and pretty soon I'm getting ready to put this thing into probably into a 15-gallon pot. So there you go. You can definitely do many things that people will tell you it can't be done. And I'm going to give you another example of a tree in just a minute, and you'll be really surprised about this one. Okay, so here's another one that I really love to talk about. This is a baobab tree. Okay, this is an African tree. This is from trees that are ancient trees. They've been around for forever, and they're amazing trees. These trees can be, you know, as large as a building, for God's sake, and you can actually, you know, carve a big hole in this thing, and you can store water in it. You can also carve a big hole in it and put a bar in there and have some drinks, for God's sake, or make a jail out of it. I kid you not. Google baobab tree jail, baobab tree jail, and you see what I'm talking about. You can really do that. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing that up is the baobab is not only an amazing tree, but it also produces a delicious fruit. I've had it. In Hollywood, where I live, down in Hollywood area, there are many of these trees, about 7 or 8 of these in the park. Okay, and I have actually taken some of those large seed pods, cut them open, and tasted the interior flesh, and it's pretty good. It's nice. It's good stuff. It's supposed to be a superfood also. Now, this tree here, okay, is an air layer of a baobab. Again, another tree that I was told, no, you can't air layer, you can only grow from seed. Now, look, I'm not trying to show off. I'm just telling you that don't believe everything everybody tells you when they say you can't do something. There's a lot of things you can do. You got to try. Number one, you got to try. And if you fail, you fail. So what? Maybe try again if it's important to you, or take it as a learning experience. But you know what? 9 out of 10 times, if you try, you're going to succeed. You just got to give it. You got to give it that energy from inside that you want to do something, that you want to make something happen. Okay? This tree here, when I air layered it, I took a shot. I said, you know, if people are saying that it can't be done, maybe they're trying to do it in the conventional way where the tree's all leafed out and everything. So I wanted to do it different. Okay, so if that is what people are saying it won't work. Let me try this in a weird way. Let me do this when the tree has absolutely no leaves and is dormant. Now that goes kind of contrary to what you would normally think should happen. And you know, if you know about air layering and you study a little bit, and if you watch my other videos, you'll understand why I'm saying this. You need the sunlight on the leaves to produce photosynthesis to then do the thing with the, you know, the sugar and the xylem and the phloem and travel carbohydrates down to the spot. Okay, watch the videos. So here's the thing, right? I did it with no leaves, and I didn't know if it was going to work. And if you watch the Baobab air layer video, it worked beautifully. By the way, that's a crappy video in terms of quality, but it's a good demonstration of how it's done. The reason it was crappy is I'm holding a cell phone in one hand, and I'm actually doing the air layer while I'm holding the cell phone like this. You try that. Okay, you go try that. All right, anyway, listen, the tree is an amazing tree. It's doing really, really nice. And I wanted to share this with you guys because some people have asked me, hey, how's that air layer that you did and blah, blah, blah. Well, here it is, folks. It's doing great. And again, you can do anything you put your mind to. So get out there and try. Just do it. That goes for everything in life. And I'm not here to preach to you. I'm just here to tell you that you got to try in order to have that opportunity to succeed. And I know you can. Listen, I'm going to let you guys go. I thank you so much. Hey, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Okay, leave a little comment. Ask me a question. Okay, tell me what you're growing in your neighborhood. Please subscribe. Hit the share button. You guys got to help me out. Please, I want to grow my channel. Hit the share button so that this way other people can get to know me a little bit and I can share some of my knowledge with them. And if you know something, hey, you know, I don't know everything. I only share my experiences with you guys, okay? So if you know something that I don't know about growing something, go ahead and put a comment. You guys are great. Thank you.